Okay, diving into the 2B launch article, you can read the challenge. This challenge is about figuring out or determining if the air that we exhale, that we breathe out, also turns water into an acid. We've determined that the air from fire, the gas from fire, turns water into an acid, which in and to itself is very interesting. Let's test this other source of air. So diving into the article, it's 1771. We're still with Joseph Priestley. He's resting his arms on his workbench. It's hot and muggy. Air conditioning, by the way, won't be invented for a few centuries. Actually, you could use some air conditioning in here right now. And he feels his eyelids closing against his will, and he begins to daydream. So he's in his lab. He's thinking about some things, and his mind just drifts off, and he begins to daydream. And this daydream is a flashback from his youth, and he's remembering a time when he was 8 years old. So the flashback goes like this. 8-year-old Joseph sits as still as possible among the cobwebs in his attic, jar in his small hand, the perfect ambush predator. He silently watches his 8-legged prey crawl across the floor, unaware of the trap. Joseph holds his breath, and like lightning, he strikes. The startled spider runs up the side of the jar. Fool! The boy flips the jar over, begins screwing the lid over the spider just when his mother calls him down for dinner. He jumps up, leaving the lid barely secured. The next morning, Joseph returns to his quarry in the attic, and he's horrified. He didn't mean to kill these little innocent spiders, but he's horrified to see that almost all the spiders he caught are scrunched up, dead. He frantically opens the tightened lids and checks, and they aren't pretending. He sits heartbroken before realizing that there's one survivor. The last spider in the last jar he hadn't fully closed has gotten up and is running around. Why was this the only survivor, the only spider in a jar that wasn't completely sealed? Priestley awakens from his daydream. He wipes the drool from his arm, and a couple questions come into his mind based on his daydream when he was an 8-year-old boy in that attic accidentally killing spiders, but not one. And the question is, why do animals seem to need air to breathe? So that experiment, or that accidental experiment he did in his attic, kind of proved that yes, we need air to breathe, and we need a lot of air. Or another way to put it is, if we're in a closed container, the air we need, or the type of air we need, will run out. Again, a simple thing to say, you probably all know that, but it's worth saying in science. So how do breathing animals change the air around them? And again, so he's seeing some similarity between breathing animals and fire. So fire changes the air around them. So if a fire is going for a while in a closed container, we saw the fire will extinguish. If a spider is breathing in a closed container for a period of time, the spider will die. So all these connections are kind of flooding into his mind, leading to some ideas into some things that he would want to try. So we've already developed an analytical technique, at least one analytical technique, and when I say we, I mean you, me, and Raheem, for characterizing the properties and identity of gases. And this analytical technique is mixing a gas with a universal indicator solution to see if the gas makes water acidic. So this is an analytical technique. It's a tool. It's a chemistry tool we have at our fingertips now. So let's see if we can follow Priestley and investigate the gas of exhalation, the gas we breathe out, and not of spiders. We won't use spiders in this experiment. Let's just use our own gas, use our own air we breathe out. And although likely humans and spiders are breathing out the same thing, but that's an interesting question itself. And this time, though, it's up to you to design your own experiment. So you have a rough idea of the analytical technique. We got to somehow get this gas into water. So let's see if you can come up with an experimental technique to do it, and we'll see if the gas that we exhale turns water acidic or not.